if you could just grasp the power of innate intelligence.
Bon, bienvenue à toutes et à tous pour la nouvelle conférence organisée par Sigma Dynamics. Donc, ce qu'on va faire très rapidement, c'est que je vais présenter Sigma en français. Et après, du coup, Rodrigo, il va présenter Selina. Et puis après, on donnera la main à Selina et on commencera la conf. Donc, Sigma Dynamics, c'est une idée qui a germé dans l'esprit de Léo Rodrigo il y a 3 ans. Et en fait, la première vocation qu'ils ont eue, vraiment l'envie première, c'était permettre l'accès à du contenu chiro diversifié en faisant venir des chiros inspirants, des mentors pour faire des conférences et des séminaires. Et aujourd'hui, on est 8 à être dans Sigma Dynamics. Et donc, on apporte encore plus d'énergie et encore plus de vision pour continuer à travers des conférences et des séminaires, à faire venir des chiropracteurs variés, des mentors expérimentés. Tout ça pour qu'on puisse partager un maximum de façons de voir et de pratiquer la chiro. Ça, c'est super important. Pour toucher le plus de monde possible, surtout pour inspirer les gens et donner l'opportunité à tout le monde de trouver sa voie et de développer sa propre vision. Tout ça, en fait, on le fait parce qu'on a vraiment envie que chacun et chacune puisse s'élever en faisant évoluer la profession chiropratique et surtout le monde autour de lui. Voilà. J'ai passé la main à Rodrigo. Hop là.
Parfait. Merci Lucas pour cette intro. Du coup, je vous laisse juste petit point, rallumer vos caméras si vous êtes chaud. Je pense que ça sera cool pour avoir plus d'interaction, ça peut être sympa. Du coup, bon, Selina Sigafoose, c'est la fille de James Sigafoose. Je pense que la plupart d'entre vous le connaissent. On a fait sur Insta dernièrement des petites stories concernant, donnant quelques infos là-dessus. Moi, je tenais vraiment à inviter Selina parce que je l'ai rencontrée à Chiro Europe. Et déjà, on avait parlé beaucoup sur le why, comment trouver notre why, sur la spiritualité. Moi, ça m'avait profondément marqué. Et après, elle avait fait un speech que j'avais trouvé incroyable sur les 33 principes, où on voyait en fait d'un côté toute sa douceur et d'un autre côté toute sa puissance en fait à travers le speech. J'ai trouvé ça impressionnant. Donc, j'espère que vous pourrez la rencontrer en vrai un jour. Et donc voilà, aujourd'hui, il est là pour nous parler surtout de l'ajustement et des 33 principes aussi un peu, parce que toute sa vie s'organise autour de ça, donc elle va nous expliquer un peu plus ça aussi. Et je vous souhaite à tous et à toutes de passer une très bonne conférence. You can start the conference, Selina. Thank you.
Very good. So I'm assuming everybody understands English. But it doesn't mean that you necessarily understand my English. So I'm a fairly fast talker. I will do my best to slow myself down. So first of all, I want to say thank you. This is quite an honor. It's a unique time that we're living in, uncharted territories. We all may have different ideas and views on what we're going through right now in this world. But one thing that we can agree on that, or at least in my opinion, what COVID has done is it's brought us together. It hasn't torn us apart. And whatever the powers that be want to say that we're divided, we're different, we're separated, or we're segregated, I see us as coming, or at least those that are of like mind are coming closer and closer together. There was never a time that I could imagine. I'm looking at a lot of young faces on these screens, and it was never a time that I could imagine where we could all be together. It's such, not just in the same country, but here we are in different continents and we're still together. So thank you. I'm humbled by this request. And my goal is that we, not just me, but we deliver a message. So I know that there are some of you that are in school, some of you are students. We're all still students of this thing called life, but some of us are out and practicing. So I'm going to start out by just reminding us, at least in our country, every healthcare provider studies, uses, and learns from Gray's Anatomy, which is the textbook that we learn anatomy and physiology from. And in Gray's Anatomy, it tells us that the nervous system conducts and coordinates all organs and structures of the human body. Now, I'm going to repeat that. All healthcare providers learn that the nervous system conducts and coordinates all organs and structures of the human body. So there is some people in our profession that want to negate the impact that the chiropractic adjustment has on neurology. How in God's name do we have 2 cells for a brain read what a textbook that all health, neurologists, cardiologists, surgeons, you name it, study that the nervous system conducts and coordinates all organs and structures? We cannot deny that as chiropractor, we touch the spine. The job of the spine is to house the nervous system, or at least the spinal cord, right? How in the hell can we not make a chiropractic adjustment if you're not even educated on how to put your hand on a bone and just smack somebody? How in the hell can you not impact that neural supply, that electrochemical signal that the brain is conducting and coordinating and emanating and sending in across this incredible circuitry called the nervous system to the tissue cells and run those cells? How in the hell? I am not a researcher. I am not a scientist, but I have 2 noodles to rub together as a brain. And I know that if Gray's Anatomy is the textbook that all healthcare providers study, and we as a profession of chiropractors understand the relationship of the vertebral column to that central nervous system, then we have to agree that even a smack on the back is going to affect that neurology. That it can't just be simple neuromuscular or musculoskeletal back pain. It cannot be, or else we have to throw away Gray's Anatomy. So I think those of you that are on here are going to agree to some degree that, all right, I'm going to buy that. I'm going to buy that the spine affects the nervous system, and that some type of movement of the vertebral column could enhance or alter the function of the nervous system. So I'll say that we're all going to start out with that basic fundamental agreement. So now we'll shift a tiny bit to the 33 principles, right? The major premise, principle number 1, tells us that there's a universal intelligence in all matter. Now I'm going to stop for a second, and I'm just going to assume that not everybody here is going to agree that there is even a universal intelligence, and not everybody here is going to agree that there's an innate intelligence within us. But since you gave me the mic, I'm going to keep going. So there is a universal intelligence in all matter and continually gives to it all of its properties and actions, thus maintaining it in existence. Okay, so there is a universal intelligence in all matter, right? That's what I say, and that's what BJ says. That's what Ralph Stevenson says. That's what the 33 principles say. There's a universal intelligence in all matter and keeps on keeping on. It keeps giving. How does it keep giving? From okay, I'm not a scientist, but from some type of physiological standpoint, it keeps giving because the brain produces a signal. The brain creates this electrochemical signal, and it keeps giving through that nervous system and emanates across those nerves to the tissue cells and continually properties and actions, thus maintaining it in existence. Now, do we all just want to be maintained? Do we all want to be part of a profession that just maintains people? I mean, that's ideal if they're already at their maximum health. But don't we want to make a difference, not just in maintaining, we want to enhance that expression. So I spoke at the World Federation of Chiropractic. I gave a whopping, now I like to talk fast, but they gave me 6 minutes. So I really had to talk fast. So I was going to get my word in come hell or high water. I was saying what I was saying. And it was interesting that, well, I'm not going to go there. So we'll just say in 6 minutes, I had to say a lot to be able to say that we can't deny the fact that the universal intelligence is in all matter and continually gives to it all its properties and actions, thus maintaining it in existence. So if we are going to practice this thing called chiropractic, that would have to be the basic principle that you understand. Now, how do you educate that to a person? Well, I'm going to assume that we all live in an industrialized world and we all have a power grid. And on our power grid, we'll say that in my town, my power grid, my electrical supplier is called MedEd. Med-Ed produces an electrical signal, and through massive circuitry, through all of the electrical wires, it sends a signal to every outlet in my town and beyond. And we get to enjoy a full power surge because there's no interference between my Med-Ed, through my grid, right? So how we educate this to our people, because I know there's a lot of you as students, how do you say, well, how do I get this point across? How do I get people that want to express their self? And how do I get out of the back pain conversation? Well, you just remember that all healthcare providers, us included, learn that the nervous system controls everything. So you get out of that mindset right now by just knowing that the chiropractor affects the function of the nervous system because the relationship of the bones to the spine is too close for you not to affect it. So again, Med-Ed sends a signal, we're enjoying a full power surge. So if I want my body to work on a full power surge, I need to make sure that that brain is able to send those electrochemical signals through that nervous system so that my body, so major premise, can be expressed so that the universal intelligence becomes innate intelligence and it conducts and coordinates all organs and structures. How do we separate the major premise from that definition of what the nervous system does? I mean, when you pick it apart and you look at it from its basic fundamental just words, you cannot separate it. You cannot tell me that we are relegated to a back pain profession. So last week I was down in Atlanta and there was an Israeli scientist, not a chiropractor. He was an Israeli scientist and he studies how a heart rate variability test affects the vagus nerve, or how the vagus nerve can affect the heart rate variability. So he summarized in saying that the vagus nerve, which is the wandering nerve, it innervates all major functions of the body, is the healthier that nerve is, the higher our heart rate variability is. The higher our heart rate variability is, they're finding studies that people that had COVID with a high heart rate variability get over COVID with really minimal to no issues. People that had a low heart rate variability have more residual effects from COVID. People with a higher heart rate variability have a lower mortality rate. People with a higher heart rate variability have less disease. And he's saying that the vagus nerve affects heart rate variability. Heart rate variability is a way that we can detect things, right? Outside of if you don't x-ray or if you don't do other things. We do have been doing heart rate variability in our practice for about 15 years. So the short story is that the vagus nerve lives within the brainstem, the medulla oblongata. And if that medulla oblongata is protected by what? It's part of the brain that's Xing into the vertebral column, that atlas and axis. The alignment of atlas and axis is going to affect the medulla oblongata, which is ultimately going to affect the vagus nerve, which is ultimately going to affect the heart rate variability. And what these scientists are saying, that it's affecting our mortality. It's affecting. Now, we don't need this because science is just really catching up to what we have known 100 plus years in chiropractic. But it's exciting to be able to see that the world is picking up on it. Now, some people would say, yeah, they're going to try to steal chiropractic from us. Only if you sit inside your little shell and suck your thumbs and think, I'm not good enough, I'm not aware enough, I can't do this, it's not for me, I can't tell the story, I don't understand it, I don't know how to tell it well. So the basic fundamental major premise, principle number one, there is, now, if you're going to buy this thing called chiropractic, you got to buy the 33 principles. The major premise tells us there is a universal intelligence in all living matter and continually gives to it all of its properties and actions, thus maintaining it in existence. So that is the impact that we have on a human body. But let's not forget that this major premise, these principles impact our day-to-day life too, which means I'm not in York, Pennsylvania, in the United States of America for 30 years by accident. That there is a universal intelligence that is innate intelligence within me, that guided me here and helped me plant my seeds here and helped me and my husband grow a practice of 1,000 visits a week. Was that by accident? I'm not that good. We aren't that great. We're human beings. We fail. So did that universal intelligence just haphazardly create us in our mother's womb and then drop us off and we're just here by accident? Or is there a design? And so when you fail, or you think that you can't, or you think that you don't understand, or you don't think you're good enough, just read principle number 1 over and over and over again. You know, I just spoke to a gentleman who said that, you know, if we try to have an argument about medicine with medical doctors, we're not going to win because they have the cultural authority. So don't try to argue chiropractic with medical language. Know your chiropractic language. Know your anatomy and physiology, but at the same time, know these 33 principles. Know the philosophy of chiropractic. Know the basic, simplest things that, just as I explained, that there's an electrochemical signal within the body and it has to get through to each and individual cell. And the difference that we make as a chiropractor is locating and detecting a vertebral subluxation. How do you locate and detect the vertebral subluxation? Well, that's what you're going to school for. And if you're not learning it, I'd 1, complain, and 2, I'd find a chiropractor that knows how to locate and detect a vertebral subluxation. But at the bare bones minimum, Dr. Sidney from Dynamic Essentials, who was the founder of Life University in Marietta, Georgia, said, damn, man, I could hit the wrong side of an atlas and still make the collie dog grow hair, or have your hair grow like a collie dog. Like, there is an intention behind what you do, and you can love the principle of chiropractic. You can love the philosophy of chiropractic, but there is this 3-legged stool where you've got to love to learn the science of chiropractic. And I believe the science of chiropractic is what we just briefly talked about, that Gray's Anatomy tells us that the nervous system conducts and coordinates all organs and structures. The philosophy is major premise that there's a universal intelligence in all living things, continually giving to it all its properties and actions, thus maintaining it in existence. And the technique is love. The technique is somehow understanding that my job as a chiropractor is to serve humankind by figuring this story out. Now, my technique is a full spine technique. We take x-rays, we palpate, we do leg checks, we do range of motion, we do the pulse wave profile or the heart rate variability. We do all kinds of different things. That's my technique. You know, I know a lot of people in Europe do a lot of network technique or BEST, bioenergetic synchronization technique. Or, you know, I also use it's called Karen specific or KST, Karen specific technique, which is using instruments. We all have a different technique. Does that make any one of us any better than the other? Hell no, man. Because if all of our intentions are the same, we're all going to get magnificent results. You know, this is a gross example, but the act of making love and the act of rape is the same act. So what's the difference? It's the intention behind it. And getting your intention right begins with understanding what the philosophy of chiropractic is. Begins with understanding what your purpose is, really. Begins with understanding that you must be a master. You must some technique. And mastering that technique is you become mechanistic if it's just the technique without the philosophy. And so we have to understand why we want to be amongst our human race. So again, with COVID and this wonderful thing, technology, there's been a lot of telehealth. Telehealth, I don't know if you guys have that, I'm sure you do, where a patient can seek quote unquote medical care through a screen. Now, you know as well as I, that will never, ever, 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 ever replace the human touch. And so you as a chiropractor are given the gift of human touch. And if you don't like touching people, or you got a thing with germs, you and I can talk about that later. You got to like people. You got to like touching people. You got to like to be in the presence of others. It's not a scary thing to have ownership of this role of being a chiropractor when you own why you do what you do. Sometimes why I show up in the office is it's what I need sometimes. I need to know that I'm on the right path. And just by showing up, I get that fulfilled. Sometimes showing up to the office is just this past week, some really devastating, horrible stories that our patients have had to go through. And just being able to listen and touch them. You won't get that through telehealth. You won't be able to hear the stories. The coolest thing about chiropractic and about practicing is that you get to be part of these people's lives. And there's a responsibility that comes with that. And I believe that responsibility is just really being a master in all things that you do. You know, how you do one thing is how you do all things. And if you're a master at listening, you're a master adjuster, you're a master lover, you're a master communicator of chiropractic, just continue to work on being the master. So there's Napoleon Hill wrote a book called Outwitting the Devil. And I'm going to read to you one of his segments. So this is what Napoleon Hill is writing, what he says that the devil says. So it's one of my cleverest tricks. I enter the minds of people through thoughts which they believe to be their own. Those most useful to me are fear, superstition, avarice, greed, lust, revenge, anger, vanity, and plain laziness. One of more of these, I can enter any mind at any age, but I get my best results when I take charge of a mind while it is young, before its owner has learned how to close any of these 9 doors. Then I can set up habits which keep the doors forever. So Satan, or evil, or madness enters our mind, sometimes with just plain vanity and laziness. When that evil enters our mind, we sometimes get over into the mindset of that it's all about me. It's all, what can I get out of this? And I don't think your generation is like that, honestly. I think your generation has turned a corner. And I believe that, you desire that why more than you desire what it's in it for you. You desire that why, but you're a human being and you get weak. Napoleon says is that if you find that your path demands you walk through hell, walk like you own the place. And so how do you walk through hell? How do you deal with fear? How do you deal with doubt? Because as students and young practitioners, doubt is deadly. And I really believe how you deal with fear and doubt is one, this arena that you have right now, getting together. But 2, mastering your why. Why the hell are you even a human being? What brought you to this space? Right? Think about that. If an egg and sperm come together and you create a cell, and in 9 months, the cell becomes a precious human being. And this precious human being makes it out of their mother's womb and survives on the minimalist milky substance and grows into a human being. Like, as chiropractors, we understand that. And I believe that that's so important in that whether you teach it, that you understand this because you express it sometimes in just your being. That there is no way on God's green earth that you are not where you're supposed to be, because if we could make it through that path of just the birth canal, I don't know how many of you have delivered babies, but I've delivered a few in my own home. And man, I don't know how I made it through labor and delivery, let alone that little being that came out of me. And to make it through that and through this point of life, you have to know, you have to believe, you have to understand, you have to accept that there is a universal intelligence in all living things. And that intelligence didn't forget about you today. That intelligence is continually giving to you all your properties and actions and maintaining you in existence. So what does BJ say about being able to be a master and sometimes saying, speaking, understanding, expressing this philosophy and owning this philosophy? He said, when he found himself in his relations with his inner super self, I'm going to try and share this screen because it's one thing that I read it. It's another thing for you to see it. So let me share the screen. The host has disabled me.
Hang on a second.
I will not be disabled. I'm good. If I don't share it, okay. Awesome. So I'm just
working.
Perfect. I'm not gonna expand it to the show, but I want you to see this. So when he found himself in his relations with his inner super self, he decided to listen to innate more. He listened to that innate intelligence more and less attention to education, especially in gaining knowledge of self within himself, thereby gaining a greater knowledge of what made man tick in relation to his studies of life, health, sickness, and how to recover lost values like love, joy. Those are some lost values. He would listen, heed, and act upon its advices when thought flashes came in a split second. So B.J. Palmer used to have a space underneath his steps in his home where it was kind of like a lounge where he would sit, and he always had a piece of a writing tool by him so that when innate would speak to him and those thought flashes came, he could write them down. Now, I'm not that savvy. I don't have a writing tool next to my bed because I'm a pretty sound sleeper. But we have other forms of technology that we can write things down. And I believe that when a thought comes through, either you act upon it on that moment or you write it down. But how do you know? How do you know if that thought is good, bad, or ugly? Well, there's something called intuition. And intuition, as we all know, is that gut instinct. And we're taught in our society to push that intuition away because it's not quote unquote scientific enough. It's not reduplicatable. It's not medical enough. Well, Wikipedia tells us that intuition is the ability to acquire knowledge without a conscious reasoning. And I think that's what BJ was saying. BJ was saying that thought flash would come in and he would have a knowledge that came from within. Psychology today tells us it's a highly efficient tool if you don't think too much about it. Isn't that interesting? Intuition, that innate thought, that message that comes from within, psychology today says it's pretty efficient if you don't think too much about it. Well, I'll be a monkey's uncle. So there's a chiropractor here in the States. His name is Dr. Rob Schiffman. Many of you may have heard of him. Dr. Rob Schiffman was seeing about 1,400 visits a week by himself. And he knew he had more in him. And so he contacted my father because he wanted to coach with my dad. My dad's like, damn, boy, what do you need me for? Well, Rob said, I got more. And so they coached for a bit. And the single one massive thing that my dad told Rob Schiffman is you think too much. And he told Rob Schiffman to go out into the woods, quiet, and get quiet every day. He told Rob Schiffman what BJ learned, to listen, to do less, get rid of educated. In a world of technology, that's hard to do. You have to be extremely disciplined. Psychology today says it's efficient. This intuition, this voice within is efficient if you don't think too much about it. So Rob Schiffman did what my father said. He very quickly approached 2,000 visits a week, single practitioner. That's not natural. That's not something you can do in this physical body. There has to be something supernatural. And what BJ is talking about, what he did, that's supernatural. That is a universal intelligence, in my opinion, called God, that enters us in universal intelligence, which is the spirit within. And it's being disciplined to turn the world off, less educated. BJ said this how many years ago? Become less educated and more gain knowledge of yourself by being quiet and going within. Principle 26 of the 33 principles tells us, in order to carry on the universal cycle of life, universal forces are destructive. Universal forces are destructive. That means the world's going to beat your ass down. It's coming for you. You have your innate intelligence within that is constructive. That voice within, if you surrender to it and you're disciplined enough, it's constructive. So this little bullet point, my interpretation of this, that innate will make sure that everything's okay, that you're living a space for you to win, and it will connect you. It connects you to the right people at the right time, but it's our job to be disciplined enough to allow that connection to occur, to get quiet so that you can hear that voice within and then follow it without haste, with haste, I should say. Follow it. You know, if you'd signed up to be a chiropractor, this is not a hard life. It's an easy life. But you've got to choose to do the steps, the necessary steps to make an impact. And, you know, I've told you we see 1,000 a week. My dad used to see 2,000 a week by himself. Rob Schiffman, there's a lot of people that see some crazy, wild ass volume. You think, I just can't do this. As a human being, I just can't do this. Sometimes you just get tired. But you have to remember why you do what you do. You're here to serve. So BJ told us that as long as people are sick and sick people seek health and medical men cannot deliver it and chiropractors can, chiropractic will be in demand. You see, chiropractic is in demand. In my world, everybody wants to be under chiropractic care. In my world, everybody is a lifetime patient. In my world, all kids are checked. All family members are checked. In my world, people want what we have. Chiropractic is in demand. So as long as sick people demand chiropractic, there will be chiropractors to supply that demand. Regardless of chiropractic boards, basic science boards, or any other obstacle, people will get what they want as long as they need it. Prohibition and bootlegging days prove that. So we can have the governmental agencies trying to tell us, or researchers trying to tell us that we're not scientific enough, which we are, that we're not educated enough, we are, that we're not good enough, we're great. And as long as you do the work to be disciplined, to listen to that small voice within, and know that you know that you know that there is a universal intelligence in all matter continually giving to it, that all things are going to be okay. You know, we're not the only one that knows this. Joel Goldsmith from The Thunder of Silence tells us that as we learn to listen and develop a state of receptivity. Now, I'm going to guess that everybody knows what I mean when I say that, or what he means when he says that, but this state of receptivity. So we think of our innate mind as a radar, and it's open to hearing. And we hear a lot of stuff, but we have to be receptive that we don't let come in what doesn't belong in. So when we have this state of receptivity, we eventually arrive at a place where the flow begins from within. That neither written nor spoken truth, God, universal, innate intelligence into our lives. The written or spoken word gives us a foundation. So when this says the written or spoken word, I use the Bible and I use the 33 principles. It gives us a foundation upon which to rest while we are awaiting the realization of God's grace, but only when the Spirit moves upon us to do the mighty works. If that doesn't make sense, when we open up to question and answer, you gotta ask me what that means. And if it makes sense, hallelujah. But the Spirit moves upon us when we clear out all the clouds. And that doesn't take a lifetime. happens in a moment. Why? Why do we want to be better at what we do? So we want to be better because we're called to do that. You know, BJ says we got to be ready. People want us. They want what we've got. You have to demand from yourself to show up, to hold on, to reach out, to ask for help. You know, I know I'm in another country, and I know I'm probably a generation older than you, but I'm in the thick of this. I'm in the trenches. I have been for 30 years, and I will remain there until I take my last breath. And so I'm not just somebody saying, oh, I've been there, done that. It's an everyday feat for me to recognize that there is a universal intelligence. This is a daily dying to myself, dying to my carnal desires, dying to my vanity and plain laziness, and shutting the door on the devil. And if I find myself in that space, walking through hell like I freaking own the place. And that is what we all have available. And truly, just having a group to be able to reach out to is so cool. And again, this technology has given us that ability to do so. So, you know, I know you said for me to talk till 3. I don't have that in me. I have a lot more in me. But I think that I'm open, if you guys are open, to just diving right into some question and answers.
Du coup,
Somebody on the other side of the room has to mute.
Selina a fini sa présentation. Si les personnes veulent poser des questions, vous pouvez les poser dans le chat. On pourra les traduire, ou vous pouvez directement prendre le micro et poser vos questions directement en live. Voilà. I was just saying that people can ask questions right now.
Yes. Awesome.
Okay, so actually, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, okay. Where does the 33 principle come from? Who invented them?
Well, who invented the 33 principles? That was written by, I'm pretty sure originally, I think it was, good God, Ralph Stevenson? I don't think it was BJ. I think it was Ralph Stevenson. Yeah, I got a thumbs up. Ralph Stevenson. You can find them online. Just search chiropractic 33 principles. You can find them. And you know, one of the things that if you've ever read any of the green books, what a lot of people will say is that, man, they're just like, oh, I can only take in one page at a time. They're just so hard. And the 33 principles, if you're just reading them as the words on a piece of paper, they're not coming in. You are not going to be receptive. The day that I learned to look at the 33 principles as a guiding format for my life is when they transformed in my mind. And so any part of the philosophical conversation that you study, you've got to look at this as a life war. Like, these principles are principles of life. They're not principles for just chiropractic.
I have one. I have a question. I was wondering if during your practice, one day, one principle really hit you in the face, like you got a patient and something clicked, and I don't know, something happened in your mind.
You mean just one day as a story, or in any given day does it hit me?
Well, in a specific day.
Oh.
Maybe one day. Did one really hit you, or in a particular way, or anything?
Well, you know, I am going to be just honest with you. No, not one day did that in practice. I will tell you that one day I was graduated from chiropractic school and living with my parents. I'm going to try not to cry. I feel a little emotion coming. And my dad and I were talking. And he was talking, he said, what's the definition of a subluxation? I'm like, no, what, do you think I'm an idiot? It is a bone out of place putting pressure on a nerve. Like, who doesn't know that? He goes, no, that's not it. Yes, it is. My dad and I had quite the relationship. He goes, well, what's the job of the nerve? And I was a graduated student, child of a chiropractor. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know. And that conversation lives inside of me, that every single solitary time I educate a patient, it decreases that electrical impulse to the tissue cell, and the tissue cell is no longer functioning at its maximum capacity. Therefore, it is not capable of adapting to its environment. And therefore, the host that lives in cannot adapt to its environment. So that hit me, that I didn't know jack shit. That hit me. I am a graduated chiropractor, probably was practicing, the child of a chiropractor, and I half-assed that answer, and it floored me that this isn't done. This journey is not done. So.
Wow. Thank you so much for your story. It really hit deep. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. I want to share just a tiny bit about the story that I told you about the Israeli scientist that spoke last weekend at Life University. His name is Yuri. I don't know if it's his first name or his last name. So he is from Israel. I guess he flew to Israel. And I think we all know that each of our countries are battling this so-called pandemic differently. So he told that story. He gave pictures of the vagus nerve being impaired. He gave all types of information that the healthier the vagus nerve, the healthier an individual is. I mean, so incredibly beautiful. And he really was like study after study after study. We're not talking one, I'm not talking tons of studies correlating the health of the vagus nerve to the body. And it was almost like an afterthought. And he goes, you know, you chiropractors, you can really make a difference with this. And then he said, like, I'm blown away by this dude. And then he pulls out his mask and says how important it is for him to stay healthy with his mask, and that he's had the 3 shots. Now, this isn't a conversation about the shots or masks at all. But what that did to me is it blew my mind. Like, you asshole, you just blew out of the water everything you just said. Are you that smart that you're stupid? Are you telling me that you have the secret to vibrance, longevity, and health? And you're studying this, and then you say that? So we have to be careful not to be so educated that it's beyond our intelligence, beyond our ability to put it all together. And that's why I think it's so important that we stay quiet, that we look within, not just without, but that we look within. We need stuff from without. We need each other. We need information. You've got to bring it in. And for whatever that story is worth, I think it's valuable for us to see that, you know, people are getting it, but how do you not make your life choices with what you get? Hypocrisy is dangerous. We cannot be hypocritical. I don't know that he even knew he was hypocritical, but that's his problem for not figuring it out.
I have a question too, Selina.
Yes.
So how do you do to share your vision and your awareness of chiropractic and your spirituality to your patients? If you do it?
How do I share me with my people?
Yeah, like, how do you share your vision to get the people, like, to elevate people? Like, yeah, I'm asking it right now for my practice, so I want to know, how do you do it?
You do it by your walk, not your talk. You do it by you. You do it by what emanates from you. I had a kooky guy, well, many times kooky people come into the office, but this guy says to me, because we have stuff in the office, you know, that power that made the body heals the body. We have biblical quotes. We have enter to get well. We have all different things in our office. And one guy says to me real loud, he goes, "Are you a Christian?" And I said, "If you can't figure it out by what you see, then I ain't answering that. You know, I don't have to tell you what I am, what I believe, but I can show you based on my conversations. And that's how I choose to do it. I don't want anybody to join me because I say so. I want people to feel what I say and feel the passion that I have and watch my integrity. That's a big one. Your integrity is real and it speaks through your actions, not by your words." Does that answer that? Like I can expound on that a little more, but
Yeah, of course.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
I have another question. So, like the subject of today was the adjustment. So, do you have some story about an adjustment that changed someone's life or something like that? You know,
You want one story?
yeah.
I can give you thousands of stories. But my favorite story is this mother. She was Russian, actually, and very poor, just very poor. She walks in with her baby, and I don't know how she found us. I have no earthly idea. She walks in with her 9-month-old baby, and the baby's sick. She says, "We just came from the pediatrician, and the pediatrician says that this baby has failure to thrive and told us to go home and enjoy what time we have left." So I look at this baby and I see life. We adjust the baby. And that night, the baby feeds off the mother. The baby at 9 months weighed 14 pounds. That's not good at 9 months. I don't know what that is in kilograms, but I delivered 2 children. One was 9 pounds, 6 ounces, and one was 9 pounds, 12 ounces, but the average baby is anywhere from 7 to 8 pounds. So 14 pounds at 9 months is not good. Within, I would say, a month, that baby was up to 20 pounds. That baby fed, that baby ate, the baby got a little too chunky. So her husband was a trucker and they moved. She had a second baby and they made a special trip back to our town to get that second baby adjusted just to be safe, just to be sure. Of course, no issues. So that is, to me, that's my favorite story. But I can tell you that story after story after story. Really big one is macular degeneration. You know, they say that that's zero help. You cannot, it's called wet macular degeneration. You go blind. I cannot tell you the number of our people who see. Young lady, and a lot of it, I will tell you, is the Atlas adjustment. Sometimes it's toggle, sometimes it's not, but it's the Atlas. Tons of people with hearing changed, tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of babies with ear infections and colic. And you know, the hard thing about a baby being sick is it disrupts the whole home. It disrupts their young siblings, it disrupts the mom and dad, it affects family environment drastically. So when a baby can sleep through the night and doesn't scream and cry, that affects an entire family. And that's those stories where, you know, and it's mind-blowing how simple the chiropractic adjustment is, but yet how huge the impact has on lives. You know, BJ told us that you never know how far-reaching something you might think, say, or do will affect the lives of millions tomorrow. You have to be very careful. When you change, you don't change the life, but when you're the tool that changes lives, and you go out to the grocery store and you have people come up to you and say, "Hi, Dr. Selina, Here's Mary. She was breech when I was pregnant with her, and you turned her. No, I don't tell them I didn't turn her. I just changed the body so the baby could turn. In 30 years, you get stopped a lot in the grocery store of people you don't even remember. But the lives that are changed because I decided one day that I believe that there's a universal intelligence in all things and continually gives to it all its properties and actions. As trivial as that may seem, you have to buy this. You have to understand it. You have to own it. As a human being, I beg of you to understand this, to own it.
Good evening.
Hi.
Did you adjust the baby with the HVLA adjustment?
The failure to thrive? Or
Yeah.
which one?
I
I
don't
adjust a lot of babies.
Really?
All of them.
Yes. On all of them.
Yes. Me and my husband do, but yeah.
At 9 months.
Oh, the 9-month failure to thrive. My husband gave that baby the first adjustment, and I think I was the second. And then they continued to bring her in for a bit.
Okay.
Yes.
And have you already done this kind of adjustment before with a younger?
Oh,
baby?
okay. Super question. So you're asking me, is there a specific adjustment for failure to thrive?
Yes, exactly.
Well, the answer to that is no. No. The adjustment removes the interference so that the brain can get the electrochemical signal to every organ, tissue, and cell of the body so the body can begin to reduplicate and react and be a self-sustained, sufficient organism and adapt to its environment. So we don't treat the symptom. We don't treat the failure to thrive. We don't treat the colic. We don't treat the ear infections. We find the subluxation. We remove that interference so the electrochemical signal can emanate from the brain to the cell and body begins to heal. So it's not up to me to be God. It's not up to me to decide that baby should live or die. It's up to me to be the tool to remove the interference so the body can do the way God created it to do.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Wow.
Hi, Selina, can I ask you a question, please?
Yes. Do I know you? I think I know you.
Yeah, we meet, but don't worry. I'm Sebastian, I'm a chiropractor. Just a talk, don't worry.
Did you make the do you make things? Were you at Chiro Europe and make?
Yeah.
So
Thank you for being here and serve the French community first. Thank you for your words. My question is not about, it could be very philosophical, but when does your adjustment start? When does your adjustment start? Did it start on morning before getting to the office? Did it start when you was born? Did it start with the first adjustment of your dad? When does your adjustment start within you?
So when I make the adjustment or I receive the adjustment?
When you make it.
The adjustment starts, I think, for me. Man, that's a great question. I'll tell you when I think it should start, because I'm a human being and I screw up all the time. It should start, I think, the moment we wake up, because that's why we prepare. But to be less philosophical and more real, I think it starts usually when I walk in the office. That's the more real. It's just as soon as we walk in, because that's when, to be honest with you, we open at 8:30, and by 8 o'clock, there's probably 12 cars in our parking lot. So driving, maybe it starts when I drive into my parking lot and I wave and I make sure I do eye-to-eye contact and I make every single person there feel like they are the special being that they are. That's a great question.
Thank you. And I got a second one. It's more, do you think we are just innate we help innate to self-regulate, or we are just innate to adjust universal intelligence?
I think we adjust the bone so that innate can be free. And I think that innate is supplied from universal intelligence. and that innate is infinite and universal intelligence is infinite. But when our receptors are not open, we cut off the supply from universal into innate. So I believe that when we make the adjustment, we release innate. If innate is decreased.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Hi, Selina.
Yes.
Thank you so much so far. That was great. I just wonder regarding what you said about this receptivity space that you are in when you want to receive the innate thoughts. How do you differentiate innate from educated in that matter? Because we're like bombarded all the time with like information from I don't know, TV or social media, whatever. So how do you know if it's really coming from within or if it's coming from outside?
Well, we all have our innate intelligence within us, and our innate intelligence has a wisdom far greater than our educated mind. And that's where you have to be clear and disciplined to turn the world off long enough to be quiet and long enough to know and to practice on that conversation with innate. And when I say practice, you know, you and I can be best friends, but if we never talk, are we really best friends? We don't practice this conversation. And I think you have to be able to turn the world off long enough to practice this conversation. And then you know that you know that you know, because your innate intelligence is far greater, far wiser, far more knowing. And then you've got that gut instinct that you know, you just know. But you know that when you've practiced it, you've heard it, and you're like, I think, I don't know. And sometimes you fall a lot on your face. And then you know, it's just a knowing. You know, it's like love. You know, is this the person I'm going to be with the rest of my life? How the hell do you make that decision? Oh my God. But then you know, and you can't describe that knowing. You just know. Is that an answer?
It is an answer. Thank you. And second question. So acknowledge the importance of having your why and just being guided by your purpose. So first of all, what is your why, and how do you really find it apart from just listening to your innate? Is there like a way to knowing why you're here?
Well, so you know why you're here. Just number one, the basic fundamental of why we're here to serve. I truly believe that we are here to serve, and honestly, we're here to serve mankind. We have this saying. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but we serve God by serving man through chiropractic. So I love to serve. I will serve. You know, for me, I am so happy to clean the bathroom if it's going to make somebody smile or adjust a spine or make a phone call. So my why is to I want to glorify God. And I like to, that's why I like to make it clear that I am a child of God, and I hope he's happy with me. And like I taught my kids, you know, when you make a decision and when you do things and you take actions, you sure as hell better hope God's smiling. So just decisions are made on, you know, would my creator be happy with this? And if not, I need to straighten myself out. And that is my why is to just serve. I believe that we're all going to come face to face with our maker one day. And I want to hear job well done. And he's going to say, Selina, you cussed way too much. And I'm going to say, I know, I'm sorry, but I know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one question.
Yeah.
There's a lot of first year in the school right now, and
There's a lot of what?
First year.
Oh, okay.
This year, and I was wondering if you could give one advice and one advice only to those students, what would it be and why?
Listen to the people in front of you. Don't judge them. And try not to duplicate mistakes. But above all, know that you're good enough. Know that you chose a profession that will be with you forever, and that your education is so freaking amazing, and that you never have to second guess that you didn't learn. You can second guess how you apply it, but you don't have to ever second guess what you've learned. And just know that it doesn't stop with your degree, and that this thing called the human life is ever evolving, and that it's okay to screw up, because you give forgiveness, you'll receive forgiveness. You give grace, you'll receive grace, and that you can always make things right. You know, our daughter is at Life West. She is in her first week. She's not in her first year. She is in her first week at Life West. So she is a third generation chiropractor. And I told her, don't ever let anybody tell you in that wacko country called California that you're not a real doctor. You are more real than anybody with the MD behind their name. You have chosen well. Get your degree and keep on keeping on.
Thank you so much, Selina. That was great.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a question, please.
Mm-hmm.
I just have a question about did God have a big impact on your way to help people from the beginning, or did it come after years of practicing, or I don't know?
I was very young when I started to develop a relationship. I was actually in grade 5 here. But I was an extremely spiritually sensitive child, and my dad was Sigafoose, but he was so busy, I never went to him, and my mother could not comprehend. So I bottled a lot of my life questions within. And when I discovered Christianity, it was like God reached down from heaven and saved me. It was at a very vulnerable time at a young age, and I just have clung to it. Sometimes it's better than others, but it was at a young age. So I attribute that relationship, for me, I attribute it my ability to just see the world. But I had that ability at a young age, and I recognized that with my youngest daughter, who's in chiropractic school. When she came to me one day, and I saw the look on her face and the confusion, like, I don't understand. Who am I? What am I? Why am I? And she was like 5 years old. I realized that. So it was a very young age, and I've just bettered myself. Life failures, life happenings improved my relationship. You know, having a miscarriage, having family members die, having marriage difficulties, and you know, it makes you or breaks you, and I chose to turn to God to make me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ok, on a le temps encore pour 2-3 questions, donc si vous voulez les poser, c'est maintenant. Et puis après, on fera une dernière annonce sur Sigma et on pourra clore la conférence. I was just saying that we have time for a couple of questions, and then I'm going to call it a day. Sounds good to you?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah. I'm really blown away by you guys and the number of you here, and I'm impressed. And you know, I believe that this is a prediction of greatness amongst you, because there's a lot of apathy in this world, and a lot of I don't need anybody, I can do this myself. And to see you unite like this is very, very, very encouraging, and I appreciate it.
Selina, how do you guide your daughter, for example? I'm speaking for students and even for chiropractors, to get deeper in contact with Innate or with God within?
Well, you know, it's been a life journey with that. My children, as I said early on, I just said, man, You got to make the decisions that makes God smile. You can't make the decision for yourself, and you don't make the decision for your friends, and you don't make the decision for me or your dad. You make it so that you can live with the consequences. And if you make God smile, you can live with those consequences. Now, you might think making God smile could be stealing an apple to give to a homeless person. That might be what you think. I can't answer that. But I guide her. That's how I guide her. And then I have always told my children to put your phone down and listen, get quiet. And sometimes just the act, that disciplined act of putting technology down and just saying, all right, I surrender, I'm here. And if you fall asleep and you don't think like you're good enough at this, it's okay. Because the act of just saying, I surrender and I shut the world off, I believe that the universe will reward you for that. And so I always tell my children to smile. Pray the Holy Spirit, which is, by this standard, this would be what you would call innate intelligence or Holy Spirit. I say ask, invite. Again, you and I can't have a conversation with you if you don't invite me to have the conversation. Well, universal innate intelligence isn't going to have a conversation with you unless you invite innate intelligence. So you have to say, I'm open, I'm here, I'm receptive. Some people are blessed with getting this big rock fall on their head and they'll say, I had this aha moment. I don't think it happens quite like that. I think at one point in their life, they were willing to surrender. So it's just saying, I'm open, I'm willing to hear, I'm receptive. And I tell her that all the time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Listen, I want you guys to feel comfortable. If you have any other questions, to reach out to me. These guys have my email, but I'll type my email into the chat so you can reach out. I'm also on WhatsApp. So I think if I do that, I can just give you do I just give you my phone number? Is that enough for WhatsApp?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And feel free to just
actually,
text
I have
me.
another question.
Yes.
Could you re-explain what is the difference between innate intelligence and universal intelligence?
Okay. Universal intelligence is the world, we'll say, or God, right?
Right.
Innate intelligence is God within, or the spirit within. It's the same, but it's innate intelligence is personal. Universal intelligence is world, global.
Okay.
Make sense?
Okay.
Yes. These are some great questions. I guess us Americans don't care about this kind of stuff. You guys are cool.
Right. I have one question. Where do you see the future of chiropractic within like 10, 20, 30 years ahead of today?
That's a great question. Well, if I look at my world, I see the future of chiropractic unlimited. BJ said, as long as there are sick people and medical men can't help, chiropractic will be in demand as long as there's chiropractors to deliver. You guys are evidence of this. You're the hope. You are the hope of what chiropractic is to come. I say that chiropractic is booming. Chiropractic is doing great. Will it always and forever be called chiropractic? That might be a little scary. That might change, but I think that it will. That's my job. That's my job as the president of the ICA, to ensure that chiropractic stays the #1 drug-free healthcare profession in the world, not in the States, in the world. So Yeah, I see it doing great. What do you guys think? What do you first year students, what do you guys think? Anyone want to tell me what you think of where chiropractic will be when you graduate? What do you hope it will be?
I hope. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Vas-y.
I would just say, I hope that I see in our profession, like, a lot of people are divided. Like, we put like, comment on dit barrière? Quelqu'un là?
Barriers.
Yeah. Between type of people like vitalist, mechanist, pro health, pro I don't know what, and I feel like it divides us more and make less of an impact when we're like that. And I really hope that we can understand that each one of us has his own way of doing chiropractic, and there is no need to say, oh, mine is better, or you're wrong, or whatever. Like, just do your thing and do what's work for the people that you're helping. Don't try to interfere with the life of other. It just makes us weak. It doesn't make us stronger.
Thank you for that. You're very right. And yeah, very right. You know, there is a basic premises that chiropractic was created on, and I think that that should always be respected and held on to. Like, the basic fundamental principles of chiropractic are those 33 principles, and we cannot walk away from them. But, you know, a friend just told me that instead of us defending our stance on chiropractic, that we need to advocate what we're for. And Wayne Dyer wrote a book, I forget what it was called, but he said to live for what you're for and not for what you're against. And that was something that transformed me, because I was raised to hate. I was raised to hate medicine. I was raised to hate people that were not vitalistic or didn't have the same philosophy. And it's very draining. So yeah, living for what we're for and not for what we're against is a big, big deal. I appreciate that. Is that your name, Maureen?
Yes, okay. It's me. Thank
Wonderful. You. Your picture goes great with your name.
Thank you. It's my island. I'm from a small island in the Indian Ocean, and this is one of my favorite spots. It's like how do you say, a point of water, and across the black rock there's the ocean.
Wow, that is gorgeous. Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I might have another question. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Didi Palmer said chiropractic is based on tone. Would you mind explaining what tone is in chiropractic?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, and I haven't delved into that part of it, but what I believe and what I know it is that there is a normal tone of the body, and that tone can be heightened when there is a subluxation, and then the longer that the subluxation lasts, it becomes kind of weak or flaccid. And then, you know, so the adjustment normalizes tone. There's a lot of different conversation about tone depending on a technique, you know. So have you guys heard of the BGI technique?
Yep.
Yeah, that's all about tone. And I think it's very relevant. It's long into my career, but I think in my early days, I would have really delved into BGI. It's just that now I'm doing stuff and it works. And, you know, when you try to take on too much, you lose your perfection of what you do. And I feel like I'm perfecting. At 30 years, I'm perfecting. So does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Good.
Let's go for one last question and we call it a day. Une dernière question pour ceux qui veulent.
Naomi, I'm looking at you. Are you a first year?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I don't know why I keep looking at you. Maybe because you're on my screen, but I'm just looking at you. Are you good?
Yes, I am.
Good. Awesome.
I'm just studying in chiropractics for a month, so I can't say.
Ah, good. Very good. Very good. Okay.
That was great to hear you.
Well, when I say to reach out to me, you guys feel free. You have my number, you have my email. Remember, I'm 6 hours behind you. So if I don't answer you, it's because I'm sleeping. Okay.
All right, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Selina, for your time, your advice, your guidance. I don't have the words really to tell you how much it meant to us to have you on right now, and we're looking forward to keep in touch. And
yeah,
maybe someday it will be great to make you come to Toulouse and have a chat.
I'd love that.
Go down and
love it.
Great, really. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, listen, you guys. I can't express enough how grateful I am that you've spent the time and you've really dug deep and asked some great questions. So I do love and appreciate each of you because we love the same thing. And whether it's chiropractic that you know or the chiropractic that you don't know, we're all on the same journey called life and love. And I appreciate you. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Du coup, une dernière petite annonce. Sigma est enfin une association. On va pouvoir lancer l'inscription tout bientôt, tout bientôt. Ça va être vraiment intéressant. Et je vous annonce aussi le début du cycle des techniques, le cycle art qui va commencer. Restez connectés sur le groupe Sigma Dynamics. Nous allons poster les informations pour le premier séminaire qui sera avec Patrick Sermé et ce sera main chiro. Voilà. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank
Have
you.
a great evening and much love as always. May
Thanks.
me blessing it in you.
Amen.